I'm going to come back on and introduce our guest speaker. So we've got our guest speaker today is Steve Kane. So Steve has 15 years of experience in lean manufacturing, and the majority of his experience has been in the medical device industry. Currently, he's Director of Customer Success with Gimba Academy, and Dominic gave a nice little shout out to the Gimba Academy product and stuff. So Steve, just to know the students all have access and can use your product. It's a pretty good thing. So Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So Steve, tell us a little bit about what your current position is and what your relationship is to lean.
So currently I'm Director of Customer Success at Gimba Academy. And as you probably know, Gimba Academy is a provider of Lean and Six Sigma training content over the internet. So my responsibility is to help our customers apply Lean in their organizations, coach them through Lean transformation, develop Lean strategies, teach them how to teach, if you will. So it's really about the application of Lean thinking and doing.
Right. Very cool. I know you've got a long career. We've had a long relationship. You're currently working out of Michigan, but maybe you could share with our students a little bit about your lean journey, how to get started. How'd you get to where you are now? How do you get to be in your position?
Yeah, so for me, it started actually in the motorcycle industry around 2001. I was managing a parts and accessories department for a BMW motorcycle dealership in Santa Cruz. And we were doing a lot of business. Internet sales was still fairly new at that time, but we were very big into it. So we were selling through the back door for internet sales, selling to the service department, and then selling over the customer service counter. So if you kind of imagine a small place, a lot of parts moving, a lot of people moving, we were running into each other. And it just kind of dawned on me that there should be some sense of flow to what we were doing. And I knew nothing about Lean at the time, but there should be flow. We should find ways to error-proof our processes and eliminate steps, as many steps as we could. So I did that for a few years there. Later, went into the medical device industry in Paso Robles. And that's where I was introduced to Lean as a discipline. And I started on the production floor, manufacturing, actually making components for medical devices. And then I was applying 5S. I was learning about the 7 ways. I was writing standard work, started doing those things. And then somebody asked me to read the goal. Then I read the Toyota Way. And I just kept studying. And I found those who were well-versed in it and spent a lot of time with them, learning from them as much as I could. And eventually moved into management, where I ran a satellite plant of about 35 people or so in Elk Rapids, Michigan. And that is where I learned about Lean leadership, and I was really kind of humbled by the experience. That's where I discovered that Lean is not about the tools, it's about the people. So I learned a lot there, grew a lot there, and then eventually moved back to Paso Robles, where I promoted to Vice President of Operations, where my responsibility was for 3 different factories, 2 in California and then that 1 in Michigan. Developed some expertise there, learned about Lean at an executive level, and so there's there were some new concepts there for me. Well, I think one of the biggest ones was being the sole executive that really had a passion for or an interest in Lean, and then dealing with the resistance at that level. Just that was a good learning experience. And then about 2 years ago, moved from that company, Specialty Silicone Fabricators, to Gimba Academy, and where I am now.
All right. Interesting. So like for this current position, what's your current Lean challenge?
The Lean challenge for me is helping people really answer the question of where do I start? because that starting point, I think, is different for everybody. There are a lot of factors. First of all, how disciplined is the organization? Has the organization already started a lean journey? What's your transformation looking like? Many questions there. And then, of course, what do you do? How well are your processes documented? And how disciplined are you with sticking to a documented process? And how open are people at all levels to change? So those are kind of some of the challenges that I deal with. And then trying to coach people without having any real influence. So to contrast that, in the past where I was a leader, people would do what I said simply because I told them to do it, which
they wanted to make you happy, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to make me happy. And what I discovered that more often than not did not work out well.
Yeah.
Right. And so here, my challenge is that I really have to practice what I've been preaching for years, which is a leader's responsibility is to teach, coach, mentor, and inspire, rather than direct or command and control. So here, I must do that. That's all I can do. I can't force a customer to take any action or really move them along. They have to want to do it.
Right. Steve, I want to, I'm going to sort of dial back because when you first started answering this question, one of the things you talked about was the importance of discipline in an organization. And that's something that I've run into when we talk to students about doing projects and working with companies. One of the things you'll run into a company that's using traditional MRP systems that are a mess. And a lot of times they're a mess because people aren't following the rules or following the instructions. And then we say, oh, well, I'm going to go to lean and that's going to fix my mess. Well, the problem is not necessarily, the system you're using. Is the fact that, you don't have a very disciplined organization that knows how to follow the rules or standard procedures, if you will.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. To kind of highlight that point, I had a supervisor at SSF running one of the smaller departments. She was just outstanding, incredible talent as a supervisor. She was a little bit abrasive, very, very direct, sometimes just downright harsh. We had a supervisor leave the company that left the largest department in the company, so we moved this other supervisor in. And this largest department was a bit of a mess. Fires everywhere. The supervisor was always firefighting, problem solving, lots of stress, lots of overtime, lots of missed delivery dates, quality problems. So this one supervisor went in and she refused to deal with the fire. She refused to deal with the quality problems. She just didn't deal with any of that stuff. She focused only on do what you're supposed to do. Just follow the rules. And it took a few months. And she just built that consistency of don't come to me with anything if you haven't followed the rules, filled out every document correctly, done everything exactly the way you're supposed to, followed your own standard work. And that simple focus, that simple practice, we saw the quality problems just fell through the floor. They just started to disappear. Our on-time delivery went up. Our overtime went down. And it was really the idea. We already had the rules. We already had the processes in place, and it was a matter of having the discipline to adhere to them.
Yeah, exactly. So, Steve, in your sort of career, I know you've had a lot of experience. So I want you now to sort of tell myself and the students a little bit about maybe what your greatest lean success was, or, for that matter, what your greatest lean failure might have been. And I think one of the things we know in lean is, what'd you learn from it? So success or failure, what'd you learn?
Well, I think the success and failure are really the same story. I mentioned earlier kind of a humbling experience leading the Elk Rapids factory. And I went into that. I felt well-versed in lean. I knew the tools. I had used them. I've seen the improvements. When I went in there, they had just gotten started with lean. They were good with 5S, just getting started with single piece flow. So I really just kind of, took the baton and ran from there. And I found that I was getting a lot of resistance. People would do single piece flow when I was in the room, and then they'd stop doing it when I wasn't, and because they just believed that batch was faster and it was easier, and it wasn't. To me, these tools, which was just so clear, it's so obvious that single piece flow is better quality, it runs faster, it's easier. But I couldn't convince people of that. So I was really just kind of cramming it down their throats, really forcing them to do it. And I was having delivery problems and quality problems and morale problems. We had turnover, we had absenteeism. And my team hated me. They just did not enjoy working with me at all. One of the people who I had the most difficulty with was one of the supervisors, one of the members of my leadership team. She went to AME and heard a presentation on a customer-focused culture, the idea being really focus on your culture, extend trust to people, extend responsibility, treat them first the way you want them to perform, and they'll rise to the task. And I had a hard time really swallowing that, but she was very, very good about just kind of nudging me along for a few months of, with this customer-focused culture, you could accomplish this, right? So it was really kind of humbling to kind of give up my method of commanding and controlling lean tools and listen to somebody who reported to me, taking her advice, and then going on that path and learning from her and then implementing it. And that turned out to be, I think, my greatest lean success. Within weeks, we watched that plant transform. It just turned around. Within 3 months, we saw real increases in performance. Within a year, there were 3 product lines that were not profitable. Within a year, those had turned around. Every product was profitable. So I think my greatest failure was forcing lean, and my greatest success was, I think, listening to somebody with another point of view and really taking it to heart.
Excellent, Steve. Great story. Now, what we all have some sort of favorite go-to tool or concept in lean that we use, maybe when the going gets tough. So what do you get going with? What's your favorite lean tool or concept?
Trust. It's trusting people when things aren't going right. I have a tendency to want to step in and control, and I want to mitigate risk, right? And I want to put everything in a nice, neat box. And working with other people, different personalities, different styles, to me, those things, then it seems a little bit messy, and to me, like the risk factor goes up, and so I want to control that. But I find that if I kind of bite my tongue, sit back a little bit, and let things go, not turn my back on it, but just let things move along. Things tend to work out, and when we really embrace different ideas, different approaches, the team performs at a higher level.
Excellent. And I want to, remind our students that as we go through these video things, and I asked this question of all our guest speakers, their favorite tool. So Steve just said that trust was one of his favorite tools. I guess we have to put that on our list of tools and concepts that you can use in your mini project. So if you can tell me or describe, as Steve has sort of done, how you've applied trust as a tool in order to achieve, your goals of your mini project, I'm all good with that. Does that sound good, Steve?
Yeah.
Trust. We make trust one of the new lean tools we can apply. I guess it's always sort of been there under the surface all the time, right?
Right.
Exactly. All right. So I'll tell you what. Let me now turn it over to our students to ask you some questions. Before I get too deep into that, I got to say that I think the way this internet works where I am, I'm going to time out at some point here, and I'm going to have to log back into the to the call. I think you get 1 hour shot at a time. So I'm going to get kicked off. And Laura, if you could sort of keep things going a little bit, if I'm off, and we'll sort of finish up with Steve here. I don't know if the recording is going to stop or what exactly is going to happen, but we'll see how that works. But let's go ahead into students. And when I get kicked off, Laura, if you could just sort of keep on going, maybe recognize hands. Can you see hands, Laura?
Yeah, I think I can. Yeah.
Okay, so you just do a little bit of moderating. Okay. All right. With that, so let's. Any questions for Steve? He also knows a lot about Gimba Academy. You know, so. Yeah, Dominic, question. Dominic, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sorry, just trying to figure out my buttons over here.
Okay.
So, Steve, I appreciate what you said because I'm a huge fan of the we'll call it the soft side of lean, right? But definitely it's the important side. And I wanted to ask, you know, I'm a huge fan of like Simon Sinek, right? And a lot of what you're saying, you know, and like Leaders Eat Last. I think one of those is a more recent books. There's a lot of parallels. So I guess my question is, what would you recommend as kind of supplemental to the standard toolbox to really leverage that soft side to make those, you know, statistical tools and lean tools more effective?
Right. Yeah. It's kind of interesting, you know, with lean. There tends to be a real focus on tools because I think they're very easy to define. You know, we can understand them quickly and be able to use them. So we tend to gravitate towards tools, but then we forget about the respect for people side, and then really having a deep understanding of what respect for people means. So yeah, for you know, to supplement the tools, I think there's a lot of reading material available. Richard Sheridan wrote a book,
Joy Inc.
Joy Inc. Yeah, fantastic book. So understanding the idea of joy in the workplace and focusing, really emphasizing that, and then you know the application of lean. You know, takes a little bit of guidance from there, but it doesn't really require any real shoving. Simon Sinek, I think, is fantastic. We have a great interview. We interviewed Simon Sinek on our podcast, so you can go to Gimba Academy and listen to that.
I think that one's really important. Just to chime in here, I did listen to that one. That one's incredibly important.
Yeah. You know, and starting with why, I think you know. He's not, you know, presenting that book or that idea in the context of lean, but just the importance of starting with purpose, right? Then we'll figure out how we're going to do it, figure out what it is. And I think lean is really the same way when we get into ocean planning, right? We want to start with what is our greater purpose.
Exactly.
You know, and I think like some examples of that, Disney's one of my favorite, you know, happiest place on earth, really simple. Right. And so right there, everybody knows in that organization what they're working for. Right. So I think that having that sense of purpose, that sense of why is huge, but really focusing on people. One other thing that is really worth looking up for anybody in a leadership position is Tony Robbins' 6 basic human needs. I think that's critical. And I think in the workplace, the more we can do to help each other meet those human needs, the better off the organization will be, the better off the customer will be.
Okay, great. Judy, you got a question?
I do. So talking about using trust as a tool, and you mentioned, you know, your native inclination was to step in, make it neat, make it work, put it in a box, and so forth. And I get that really completely. When you're working with people who are very new to the lean approach, and how do you have a way to differentiate for yourself between them just being clueless and going off the rails and going through a process that isn't, you know, neat and to spec quite yet? I mean, where do you draw the line between trust and going down a rabbit hole?
Yeah. So if somebody's going off in the wrong direction, which I mean, that can be, quite likely to happen, right? So what really is the experience there? What's really happening if somebody's going in the wrong direction? Is it that the person doesn't agree, doesn't want to go along with the organization, is resisting, Lone Ranger, or was I unclear as the leader? And I think one concept, one principle is that people are trustworthy and they want to do a good job, and we have to believe that in everybody we work with. Let them prove differently, right? If that's the case, but that's very, very rare. So if something's not going right, it's because I didn't fully explain, I didn't set direction, I didn't give the proper guidance, I didn't teach. As they say in TWI, if the learner hasn't learned, the teacher hasn't taught. So that's my opportunity to step in and stop, back up to what are we trying to achieve, right? What's our purpose? And then we start narrowing the scope. What are we doing right here? What are we trying to accomplish? And with everything we're doing, are we helping our customer be successful? Are we helping this team be successful? And are we doing the right things for the right reasons? And explore.
Yep. I guess I got kicked out.
Okay, looks like, oh, Dr. Olson, you back here?
It looks like I'm back.
Oh, great. Okay, never mind.
All right. So let me see. So it looks like I'm still recording. It looks like, so, the Zoom video conferencing stuff looks like it's a pretty powerful thing. The fact that it sort of kept on going even though the host was gone, I'm going to write a recommendation for this software somewhere, Steve. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, let me see. So are we still managing hands? Dominic, do you have another question, or you just forget to lower your hand?
It's a user error.
User error. Okay. Hey, Michael, what kind of question you have?
Hey, thanks a lot. So I was wondering, have you had to assemble a lean team? And if so, how did you do it? Did you look inside the organization, outside, or what kind of qualities did you look for when you're looking for team members?
Yeah, yes, I have. And the qualities I look for really is just a matter of attitude. I would not look for lean expertise necessarily. I mean, if you have it, great. And if you have a lot of lean talent, my suggestion would be bring in maybe one or two people with some real lean talent, but take that opportunity to bring in people with no exposure to lean and help them learn. They're also going to help you by asking why a lot. They're going to be asking a lot of questions. They'll question things more than the people with expertise will. And that's going to be a valuable experience for everybody.
Okay.
I think though too, Steve, wouldn't you say that people that appreciate lean, it tends to be an indicator of attitude, right? It's a little bit of a chicken and an egg sort of thing. I think,
Right.
With the right attitude tend to gravitate towards this lean stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Mike, you got a follow-up?
Yeah. I did. I kind of forgot.
I'm sorry, I threw you off there.
It's okay. I'll think of it in a second.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and move on. And if you want to sort of chime in at some point, Michael, you can go ahead and do that. Okay.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Sure. All right. So, any other questions for Steve?
Oh, that's what it was.
There you go.
I remember now.
All right. Go ahead. Go for it.
So, if when you bring in people that don't have any lean experience, do you kind of have to train them yourself, or do you kind of act as the teacher, so to speak, or do you go ahead and have the organization kind of fund them to get certified?
Well, yeah, I've done a lot of the teaching myself, and getting certified in lean is kind of a tricky tricky subject. There's no standard for lean. So a certification from one organization doesn't really mean the same as from anybody else. So understanding what a lean certificate is can be troublesome. One particularly troublesome issue with certificates is that it's natural for people to get that certificate and consider themselves finished, as opposed to getting the certificate and considering themselves beginners. Yeah. And it turns into quite often a resume item more than an accomplishment item. So I wouldn't worry about certification so much. What I would be more concerned with when assembling a lean team is a sense of purpose. What are we trying to improve? And focusing on problem solving through the development of people. So let's just say a simple factory is an example that has terrible on-time delivery, and we're going to focus only on delivery. My suggestion is that as a leader, you attack that delivery problem through educating this team and developing this team, and helping them then understand all of the nuances and complexities of the value stream, and then being their teacher along the way. So something I like to say, and I said quite a bit to the managers on my team at SSF, was you've got to do your job with your hands in your pockets. You can't touch the process. You're not the process owner. The people who are adding value for the customer, they're the process owners. They have to do all of the improvement. They've got to do all of the work. Your job is to kind of step in and coach from the sidelines. Like I mentioned before, and there's also this idea of lead, follow, or get out of the way. And I think a good leader will recognize the opportunity to do all three, right? Lead, follow, and get out of the way. Sometimes you have to get out front and get people moving. Sometimes you need to be in the back and just kind of offering a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of herding and direction. And then sometimes you just need to simply get out of the way and let them move.
One of my favorite sayings, Steve, is good leaders let good things happen. So that's a little bit of that getting out of the way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, the spirit of the leader giving credit for everything is just critically important. And that also means that it has to be genuine. The leader can't step in and actually, make the accomplishments. Right, just like the Super Bowl coach, doing a lot of work, but you're doing it on the sidelines, and everybody's watching the players, and the players really deserve that moment in the limelight, and they also deserve they deserve the respect of stepping up to the challenge on their own.
Right. Excellent. Well, Steve, I'm going to try to sort of wrap this up, but before we leave the question, I got one question for you.
Sure.
What's that board with all the yellow Post-its on it? And I just don't know whether I'm walking into a trap here or what. So you got a new tool you're developing or what?
Well, that's actually it's going to be an affinity diagram. I'm creating a document to onboard new customers for Gemba Academy. So I just kind of took every idea that was running through my mind, put it on a Post-it, and now I'm going to start pulling them together, and then from that I'll create a document. Well,
that's just going to show you're definitely a lean guy. So I'm going to go to the wrap-up question. So the wrap-up question: what advice do you have to students just starting on their lean journey, like these guys that are listening to us tonight?
Ask why. Just ask why over and over and over with everything you see. Be open to what you learn, and also be open to the idea that your understanding of the problem could be wrong. What you believe is a problem could be a symptom, and really, really understand what your problem is that you're dealing with. And if you're not solving a problem, then you should consider whether you should be making a change, changing a process or anything like that.
Yeah, very good. Well, Steve, thank you very much for participating. I know it's getting late your time. It's nice that we can, pull our buddies in from Michigan every once in a while. Are you missing the Central Coast at all?
Not at all. I just absolutely love it here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Glad to hear you're being successful wherever you are. Okay, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to spend a little bit of time. I'm going to stop the recording, and I'm going to spend a little more time talking to my students. But thanks a lot once again, and we'll
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.